Whether you're fly fishing in a stream, getting those ankles wet, or deep in the ocean, casting nets, fish nerds.
Hello and welcome to the Fish Nerds, a show about fish, fishing, and eating fish. So it's always funny, usually interesting, usually funny, and mostly true. John, I can't even do this right. Clay
Always
Grove's
interesting. Always interesting, usually funny, and mostly true.
I'm Clay. You're John. Who are you?
I am John, the crappie hippie.
The crappie hippie, and really the captain of the ship these days. You've been really kind of pushing this forward for me, and I appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate you too, but you know, I'm if I'm the captain, you're the admiral, you're the chief, and that's where it's at. And I'm just happy to be part of this craziness because Fish Nerds got to go on. I don't know why, and sometimes I don't know how, but I just feel like we got to keep doing this stuff, brother.
Well, I think by now we must be the longest running fishing podcast out there. We've been at it for
I wouldn't be surprised.
So long. All right. So big show. You put together some good stuff for us. You want to run down the table of contents for us?
We'll do that. We're going to get caught up. Clay and I just kind of chit chat here for a few minutes. And then our good friend, Tim Tacklebox Beat, is coming at us with a tackle review. And this is going to become like a monthly thing for us to have Tim come in and do some products. And then we're going to do some fun fish in the news stories. And I'm not even going to do a teaser. I'm just going to let everybody hear them as they come. And then our featured guest tonight is David Lyons from Tracking Minds. And if you remember from the last episode, we had on Fish in the News, a story about, Tracking Minds. Somebody needs to catch me when I do this stuff. I'm telling you, I hate it when I hear the show and I went, did I say that? Tackling Minds, people. Tackling Minds. It's the British guy that started the idea of putting fishing in. And we didn't start it, but he's a guy that's really made it happen, really got it legitimized. Now you're over in England and you're going through therapy for addiction, anxiety, all kinds of things, depression and so on. You can be prescribed fishing to get you out, get your mind off your stuff. Anyway,
John, I'm not depressed enough. I need to find some mental illnesses so I can go fishing more.
No. Oh, that's what you need to have? Well,
Yeah.
You could write it's called a social prescription, and you can write your own if you want. But
can you write a note? Can you write a note to my wife?
I will.
Okay.
I will do that. I will do that. I am a qualified fishing buddy. All right. So
all right, perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
But so David's going to come on. I got a hold of him. He's a wonderful chap, and he's a lovely human being, and you're going to have fun listening to him. And we will talk about that after that, after we run that piece. And then, we're going to talk about a couple things. Then we're going to get on out of here.
Sounds like a good show to me, John. Got a good solid hour of entertainment ahead of us. So you've been really busy working with Daggerfish, haven't you?
Yes, Daggerfish. This is a company that makes some really cool little hand lining. They call them fishing rods, but y'all know, hand lining. You can just get a can or a bottle or something, wrap some line around it and throw it out and fish by hand. It actually used to be the more common way for people to fish. The fancy people had poles and rods and things like that, whereas regular folks just tended to hand line. But this guy has raised this to a fun thing for backpackers and so on. They want to do a little fishing way up in yonder in the wilderness and the mountains and such. And he's ordering a ton of stuff. And he ordered 5,000 1/64th ounce shad dart jig heads. And I love this guy. His name is Adam Nelson. And I love this company because he is determined to go lead free, baby.
Oh, that's so good. So many of these big companies don't go lead free because of the expense, but man, it is the right way to go.
It is the right way to go. But anyway, so there's Daggerfish. There's this. I got 4 or 5 orders sitting there on my desk. I haven't even gone through yet.
I saw your blanks come in. Your big bucket of jig heads come in. It just looks like so much work.
Come in. I mean, Kathy and I made those. Yeah.
Oh, you made them. I just saw the bucket of them.
No, but I also helped him run down some split shot, and I'm wholesaling him his split shot. So for Daggerfish, and I'm just real happy to have this relationship. But on a personal level, on a home level, we've got our annual springtime mouse invasion. Spring and fall, mice decide to move into this house.
We usually get them in the fall. Yeah.
Well, they come up here. I don't know what it is about spring, but they want to, I guess, find a warm place, sheltered place to live their summer or something. I don't know, but I'm going to have to set out the trap line. I'm going to have to run my mouse trap line.
I'm curious about what kind of traps you like to use.
I use the neck breakers, just the old timers,
the cheap ones. Those reliable.
Yeah, they're reliable. And I always fantasize about at least making me a hat, or maybe even a whole coat out of mouse skin.
You get that many.
Yeah, if I could get that many, and
John, I'm going to tell you the best YouTube channel. I'm going to plug a YouTube channel. I don't usually do this, but I watch it 3 times a week, obsessively. It's the one I never miss.
Okay,
and it's called Mousetrap Mondays.
No,
and it's a dude who creates and collects mousetraps and tests 3 out a week. Everything from really, really big antiques like that are hundreds of years old to new ones he invents. And I obsessed over it a couple of years ago when I had a mouse invasion, and I learned a lot about trapping mice through that. And it's fascinating. You're going to watch it and you're going to go, oh, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. There's so many ideas. My favorite mousetrap is the rolling log mousetrap. It's a 5-gallon bucket, and there's a tube you put in between that rolls. You put peanut butter on it, and it can catch unlimited amount of mice. Put some water in the bottom, and they just go up and they roll into the bucket. Bloop, 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 bloop. And we get a lot.
Okay, I've seen one with like a tippy lid. It's a one-way tip lid.
Similar concept.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's those self-resetting traps where you can get more than one is so sweet.
Yeah, that is kind of fun, and I would have a place to release them because I don't much care for it. I mean, I'm joking around, but about having a mountain man style coat, an old fur trapper's coat made out of the hides of all the stuff I trap. And since I only I can just that's my whole ambition to have mouse skin clothing. But
as a warning to the mice, that's so you walking around, they'll be like, "Oh no, John."
Yeah, exactly. Like a Ratatouille, where he goes to the mousetrap store, the mouse poison store. But yeah. So anyway, that's
you know what you gotta do, John? Here's what you gotta do. I'm gonna give you a fishing assignment.
Okay.
All right. You're gonna trap a mouse. You're gonna dive in the snap trap, and you're gonna put it on a big old hook and chuck it in your test pond for catfish.
Okay.
That's your game. That's your assignment. That's your assignment.
Okay.
Yeah. Waste not, want not.
All right. If you've heard that works, huh?
Right. Not live ones. That's cruel.
Right. No, I would never.
Yeah. I have fished with the big Spro, like 4-inch, 5-inch rats.
Oh yeah.
For bass. And it's incredible fun fishing.
It is incredible fun. And then we did one in Lurlo. This guy made this, I can't remember which company it was, but boy, they made a big one. I mean, it's a big one. It's like a 10-inch, 12-inch. I mean, for muskie and stuff. I mean,
sure. Well, a bass would eat a big one like that too.
Oh yeah. I mean,
a couple of years ago, I was on my boat on Conway Lake here in Conway, New Hampshire. You've been on that lake with me, and we were coming in, and it was a year where there was just a tremendous amount of squirrels, and all summer long we've been seeing squirrels swimming across the lake. We'd even once in a while boat up to them and let them jump on the boat and drive them across the lake. That's how many there were. We're like a ferry service, and we were coming in to the beach after a long day on the lake, having a great time, and we saw a red squirrel fall out of a tree into the lake. And it started swimming towards shore, and this huge bass came up and slammed it. Right, big giant explosion, and the water got calm after the explosion. And then all of a sudden, that squirrel popped out of the water and was swimming like hell towards shore. And then just again, boom, another explosion. And then the water calmed down again. We thought that time that squirrel's a goner, and the squirrel came back. 3 times that happened. And the squirrel escaped every time. And the last time it escaped, the squirrel made it to shore and then stopped, turned to the lake, and just started screaming at the water. If you've never seen a red squirrel scream before, it's an amazing sight, and it sounds horrifying. that squirrel was so mad, and I can't imagine how beat up that bass's mouth must have been, because those squirrels are mean.
Well, I love that on so many levels, and it's just like Jaws or something on the squirrel eye view. And holy, we hear that predators are not nearly as successful as a lot of the documentaries and nature shows make them out to be. And there are some like dragonflies that are very, very good killers. They're like 90% successful, but people think like bobcats, bass, things like that. Nope. What is the ratio, Clay? I can't even remember.
So, well, with fish, it's incredibly low. It's like 15-20% success rate catching their prey. but not all fish. There is one fish that has almost 100% success rate. It's like 99.5%.
I know what it is. I remember.
Go ahead.
You've triggered my memory. It's a seahorse, right?
It is a seahorse. Yeah, they're incredibly accurate. It's because of the size of food they eat, and they just stop and target, and then slip them right up.
And it's gone.
Yeah,
it's gone.
So yeah, but most animals are pretty poor at it, and people aren't that much better.
No.
So,
yeah, that's why we got to use blinds and techniques and all this, high-powered rifles and stuff. Yeah, because the old homemade bow and arrow, although if you're in a culture that does that kind of thing, your success rate does go up quite a bit.
Well, there's a practice effect, John. And, I would think, too, with fishing, I think the reason that we like fishing so much, the reason we're successful at fishing is because fishes are so bad at fishing. And so an easy meal to them is such an appeal because it's so hard to actually catch anything.
Yeah. And that's why a lot of times a year it's not temperature dependent or anything, but a fast retrieve, it's just, unless they're really amped up and already feeding or really hungry, a lot of times there's a risk to an animal to expend a lot of energy getting food. And if they're not successful, then it could be very costly to them on a mortal level.
On a mortal level, yeah. Yeah, we're talking about all this, John, because we haven't been fishing. And here in New Hampshire, we've just had our warmest spring in history. And Lake Winnipesaukee, our largest lake, iced out on St. Patrick's Day. And that is the earliest ice out in history. And over in Maine, Sebago Lake, I've taken Tim Tacklebox Beat out there fishing. That iced out a month ago. And our friend Charlie McGee over at Lux Bass and Beyond Fishing, he fishes on the same pontoon boat I do. He gave up ice fishing at the beginning of March and started taking clients out trolling and jigging for giant lake trout when we were still on the ice here in New Hampshire. And it's only like 40 minutes away.
That's just,
and I was reading today an article in the paper that scientists are really worried about that because these cold water fishes rely on that super cold water with a high oxygen content, and they fully expect that trout fishing in southern Maine is going to get worse and worse and worse as the climate changes these lakes.
Well,
not to bring you down, John.
Oh no, that's okay. Because I don't want to. One another thing that's been an issue with me is focus, and I don't want to sidetrack. But I say I've been telling people, look, it's happening. We know it's happening. Global warming is a thing. I hang around mostly with people who don't want to even argue it. They know for sure, but as long as we're having warm weather, we just got to go with it. I mean, what are we going to do? We're all doing our own little part. We're all in favor of changing the kind of cars we drive, changing the way we manufacture things, taking this petroleum industry, by the short hairs and bringing them under control so that we don't, getting that junk in. And I just, we got a lot to do, but I think I hope either we still have time to do it or we don't, but I'm still going fishing, bro.
Oh, well, here's my attitude on the whole thing is like, I don't know how much we can do about it, at least on an individual level anymore. I am in favor of whatever it takes to fix the problem. But, I'm going to fish whatever's there. If the trout stop biting, I'm going to switch to bass. So the fishing goes on and it'll be warm while we do it at least.
And we will be nerding out on it every step of the way.
Every step of the way. So, yeah.
Well, you know what? You like rooster tails.
I do. I used to fish with them almost exclusively. That was my favorite for a long time.
Well, they are one of the best inline spinners made. And you ever use scents like, squeeze bottle scents and sprays and such?
I'll tell you my history with buying those things. I buy them and I put them in my truck and then they knocked under the seat and stepped on by someone. And I never, ever put them on a fishing lure. But I was just at Walmart last week and they had a big clearance and I bought some more. And this time it's not in my truck. So I'm hoping to squeeze some on some lures and see what happens.
Well, we are big fans of Procure, Tim Tacklebox Beat and myself. And he has a review coming up about how Procure is making a product for wardens that allows you to use that slimy, goopy fish scent on a feathered bait. So have a listen.
The line between scientific genius and obsessive fanaticism is a thin one.
I'm Tim Tacklebox Beat, and I am an obsessive fishing fanatic. I'm here with Lucy the Lure-matic computer.
I am Lucy the Luramatic computer, and I am a scientific genius.
Hey, we're kind of like the Wonder Twins.
I guess so. The Wonder Twins were a fictional extraterrestrial twin brother and sister superhero duo. They could activate their superpowers by touching their fists and saying the phrase, Wonder Twin Powers, activate. One twin could transform into any animal. The other could become water in any state.
Exactly. Are you ready, Lucy?
If you insist, I will humor you.
Wonder Twin Powers, activate!
Shape of a smallmouth bass.
Form of the crappy hippie's secret fishing hole.
Come on, Lucy. It's up to us to tell listeners a cool tackle innovation in under 5 minutes. We've got to hurry.
This would have been much quicker without your Wonder Twins cosplay.
Lucy, remember when I first learned about Procure bait scents?
Yes, I do. I could tell you were excited by your higher pulse rate and dilated pupils. You were quite enamored with their bait scent gels and liquids, and have fished with them ever since. You like them because their bait scents are all made from real whole fresh bait. That makes a huge difference over scents that are formulated chemically in labs. They also enhance all of their scents with powerful blends of amino acids and bite stimulants to make them the most effective scents offered. They believe in their products so much that all their products come with a complete money-back guarantee that even covers reasonable return postage. You've used their scents on most of your artificial lures.
Every type of lure except one.
That's correct. You never used them on marabou jigs and other baits where you thought the gel would gum up the bait and remove its natural action.
Yes. And one of those baits was my rooster tail spinners.
Ah, yes. Developed in the 1950s, the iconic Worden's rooster tail spinner has a pulsating hackle tail, custom blade, attractive spinning action, and a color and size for every occasion. It's known as the world's most versatile multi-species lure. So you didn't want a bait scent gel to gum up your rooster tail hackle either.
Exactly. But Worden's, who is owned by Yakima Baits, now has a rooster tail scent spray with UV flash, and it's manufactured by Procure. It's a hackle-safe spray-on fish attractant that won't damage hackle, feathers, marabou, tinsel, lure paint, fishing line, silicone, vinyl skirts, or plastic baits. It's easy to apply because it comes in 2-ounce spray bottles. That allows you to cover the entire bait very easily.
Tim, I assume you performed a proper laboratory test to prove these claims, correct?
Absolutely. I took one of Glasswater Angling's beautiful marabou jigs and tied a few feet of line to it. I dropped it into an aquarium to see what its action was like before applying the rooster tail scent spray. The action was excellent and just what you would expect from a marabou jig.
Interesting. Please continue.
The directions say to shake the bottle well and spray it onto the lure. I gave each side of the lure 3 sprays to make sure it was coated. It was easy to cover the entire bait.
What happened when you put it in the water?
I was shocked, Lucy. I was hoping the action would be the same as before the spray, but it wasn't.
The action was worse?
No, that's what surprised me. I think the marabou action was actually a little better. It was as if the spray separated every fiber, giving the lure even more tantalizing action than without the spray. Isn't that crazy? I tried it with a second jig, and I think the action was better on that one too. A third test had the same results.
Do you have a hypothesis for this finding?
I do, and I may be wrong, but I think the oil in the spray coats the fibers and keeps them separated more than when they're soaked with water. The jigs were already wet when I sprayed them, though, so this may not be correct, but nonetheless, this spray really works on both action and scent. It could also be that the UV component of the spray just made each fiber easier for me to see. Either way, I like it.
Wow. I am impressed at both your rigorous scientific method and the product. The rooster tail scent spray comes in 8 scents. They include trophy bass, crappie panfish, garlic plus, garlic nightcrawler, shad, shrimp, anise, trout, trophy trout, and hatchery pellet.
I love that they include hatchery pellet as a scent. Sometimes you just have to target some stocked trout, Lucy.
Pellet junkies.
Tank scrubbers.
Poop trout.
Slime rockets.
Pellet poodles.
Truck trout.
Just don't go mistaking one of these bait scents for your Old Spice. The last time you did that, you smelled like shad for a week.
That is a pro tip, Lucy. So I give the rooster tail scent spray 5 out of 5 golden tackle boxes, a perfect score. You will not find me on the water without a bottle in my fishing vest. Lucy, where can listeners buy Rooster Tail spray scent?
According to the Yakima Bait website, you can find the spray scents on Amazon, Bass Pro Shops, Cabela's, Dick's Sporting Goods, Scheels, Walmart, and most other places you buy your lures.
Thanks, Lucy. Now off to search for more fishing tackle innovations.
Okay, so can't you see why I'm excited? I mean, put it on crappie jigs, put it on bucktail jigs, put it on, squirrel tail jig, whatever, and the marabou and all this. And, Tim says it'll actually help the action of the lure. I got to get me some of this stuff, man.
I'm down to try it out. I've experimented with scents on feather jigs, on hand tied ice fishing jigs for lake trout using the big bucktails. And the scent I've used was sardine oil. I've taken a can of sardines, rolled the top back, and soaked them in there, and then dropped them down the hole. I can't tell if I was more or less successful because lake trout fishing is so like some days it's great and most days it sucks.
Right.
And, I caught fish, so I don't know if that helped or hurt, but I got something. So I felt positive about it.
Well, I am with the crowd that says, I don't believe it's going to call them over from the next lake, but I have seen times, especially with panfish, where it gets me more strikes. But once again, back to the kid fishing thing and this and that, it gets you more successful strikes because they're going to hang on a little better. They're going to come at it with a little more enthusiasm.
A lot of times when I'm fishing with worms, I'm using the tiniest piece of worm. And the only reason I'm putting it on there is give it a little stink. I've used soft plastics and done okay, and then I've had them not work at all, and then I switched to a piece of worm and catch tons of fish. And I'm thinking if I just put a little bit of this goo on there, I wouldn't need to use a worm at all.
Well, and it may be true because a lot of places where worms aren't easy to get, people are substituting liver strips, pieces of beaver tail.
I've heard of that, yeah.
Incredible. And so there's something about having some sort of protein, amino acid, meat molecule floating around that lure, especially for walleye. That really seems to seal the deal a lot of times. So I'm not like, I can't go fishing without it, but Procure stays in my tackle box. And, I don't know, I got lucky because we were going to want to do some stories on scents, and Procure sent me theirs, and I like the way it's made. I like the way it works, and I don't need to try any others. I am a Procure man. So get yourself some Procure spray and try it on your rooster tail if you're so inclined.
Right. Is Procure paying us for that bit?
No, but when you like somebody and you think they're straight shooters and you think they got a good product, we're going to shout them out, and then they can pay us.
Maybe. And if they want to.
If they want to, that's right.
We'll take their money.
They can show us some love with a few free bottles for Clay to put under his car.
Right, but they sent you some free bottles?
Yeah, back when we did the Lure Love thing, they sent me a ton of stuff.
Do you know it's a regulation, even on podcasts and YouTube channels, that if someone gives you free stuff and you talk about it, you have to say that out loud?
It is free stuff, and I'm talked about it. I said it out loud.
I love it. All right, good. Now we've covered ourselves.
All right, we're covered.
I don't think it's enforced, but I know it's a law. All right, you want to get into some news?
I would love some fish in the news.
All right, good.
News, fish in the news. Everybody loves their fish in the news.
All right, John, I'm going to start with the tiny fish that's louder than an airplane taking off. That's causing a stir. And we talk about fish noise a lot because they are noisy, and it's interesting. And the interesting thing about it is how people get so into it, so interested in it. So we're going to be talking about a fish. It's a less than 1 inch long fish. It's called the Danionella carabrum, and it has the loudest vocals. And it's a member of the minnow family.
You sent me this. This is crazy stuff. Yeah, and this is crazy stuff. I mean, this is thrash metal in a fish, or it's something even more. I mean, this is some loud stuff. It's incredible.
Right. What I find fascinating about it is how small the fish is.
Yes.
Right. It's less than an inch long, and you can
1 inch.
1 inch. Yeah. And a human can hear it for 328 feet away. And this was a study published
over 140 decibels.
Yeah. Crazy.
I mean, that's like an elephant that's even more than an elephant getting crazy with its trunk and making its elephant sound.
Right. But what we better do, we were talking about this loud fish. Why don't I play it for listeners? They can hear it, then we'll talk about it in a second here. So. Well, how about that, John?
Well, that the guy knows how to drum his cartilage against his gas filled organ, and which is the swim bladder, of course. What the journalist speak here has to say about it. But yeah, he really got it down. He got some good muscle in there.
He did
to drum that cartilage.
He did. And I should say this fish is in Myanmar, and it was only discovered in 2021. So it's a new fish. And you'd think something that loud, you'd be discovered sooner than that.
I mean, that's incredible. That's incredible.
Right. So that means, like, for years, for years, John, people are hearing that fish and going, "The hell is that sound? You want to check?" No, nah, let's not bother. Too much effort. It'll stop soon.
Well, Myanmar is a pretty politically charged area of the world. I think people are more interested in day to day. Yeah, I'm glad to see somebody has time to do a little research. But why do you think it makes a loud noise like that, Clay?
Well, I don't think anything, but the team of researchers have an assumption that it's competition between males, and they live in like dark, murky water, so they can't see each other, and so they have to develop this noise-making organ so they can find each other and then battle for the female of the species. Everything, John's, about sex. So you know this.
Yeah, right. So the fish with the biggest sound wins.
It wins, and it also maybe warns other males away, so they can have the female mating thing going on. They don't explain much about the mating of this fish at all. They just speculate. So it's really new research, and who knows if they'll figure it out, because fish don't talk much, except for these guys. So maybe they can translate it and find out what they're really trying to say. Like, is it like, if you were a fish making this noise in the dark water, is it, "Hey dude, stay away from my lady," or is it, "Hey lady, come close to my dude"? Like, what is their goal?
"Hey lady, come close to my dude."
Right.
Oh my God. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
That's the whole story. That's all. It's not a long story. I just found it interesting, and having good audio makes it better. So.
Oh, right. You indeed had a good one there. I like it. Okay. Speaking of downers, I got this really tough downer story. You ready?
Okay.
Okay. Well, I mean, there are tons of Florida news outlets putting this story out. I am on channel 10, local10.com. It's down in the Keys area, down in the south end of Florida. They are having a crazy time down there, as there is something in the water that is causing fish to go lethargic.
Mm-hmm.
It's causing fish to it's affecting their brains. They're swimming like they're confused. Some of them are spinning and spiraling. But what's really alarming is the highly endangered sawfish is being affected by this situation. And they have found over 60 sawfish dead, big, huge, beautiful, old specimens to little bitty ones. And of course, they figure these are just the only ones we found. There's got to be more.
Right.
And it's such an urgent problem that their governor signed a $2 million allocation to the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission just to study this and get a handle on it, because even Ron DeSantis is smart enough to know that if people don't go down to the Keys and fish, that's going to affect the state's bottom line big time.
Right. And let's hope there's a little bit just environmental concern involved with that, not just financials. But we know Americans. Money really is what people are talking about.
So, yes, that we've got some great people here that are going to go real scientists that are in Doc Martin's bailiwick that are very concerned just because they love fish and they love nature and all that, and of course all the divers and all these people that are really upset about the reefs and this and that, and but they're really wondering what happened. One scientist, let me get his name here, Chris Malinowski, pointed out that they had a bunch of algal bloom last summer, a bunch of green glop that they normally don't see in the water, coming up high in the water column. They figure this is a lot of stuff that usually just kind of stays down toward the bottom, and that because of the overheating of the ocean water, it started to rise, and it basically inhabited, big areas of the water column where it usually doesn't. And that's his idea that that there was something to do with this. And then Brian LaPlante of Florida Atlantic University does a lot of research down there, and he's talking about, he's lived there a large portion of his life from the 70s and has seen the changes, and not many of them good as they've come along. Anyway, Point agrees that, this algal situation could, be it. The story really goes back to last summer when we began to see pea soup, green water appear at the Keys. That first appeared in late June, early July. And he is on the trail of a dinoflagellate called Gambierdiscus. And the dinoflagellate is, bear with me, folks, it is a single-celled eukaryote, and they're usually considered protists, which means protist is like blue-green algae. It's one of those things that isn't plant, isn't animal, isn't a fungi.
Right.
And
it's a kingdom. It's its own kingdom.
It's its own thing. So,
right. Interestingly, by the way, seaweed is also a protist.
Wow. Did not know that, but it makes perfect sense.
Not a plant. Yep.
Yeah, I think we've got some, as we learn more, we may have to look at the whole thing. But there's, people worried it's the red tide, the blue-green algae, the this, that, what's it called? Ciguatera. Anyway, but they would say if it was that kind of outbreak, there would be people getting sick from it. And then, whirling disease in trout is caused by a protozoan, but they say that does not happen in salt water, that there's other culprits. But you get down to the bottom of the article, and the Florida Wildlife Commission has said that we have taken the sawfish. We're going to concentrate on the sawfish. They have pulled 21 of the confirmed dead sawfish out. They know that it is not a symptom of dissolved oxygen, salinity, pH, temperature, or they have not found any bacterial infection, nor have they found the breve toxins that are produced by Carenia brevis in the water samples. And because the red tide infection can spread to people by eating the fish, they would expect to have some of these reports, and they don't have them. So they don't know what's going on here. But when you look at the video that runs alongside this article, it's enough to make you cry. I mean, everything from little pinfish, common fish, up to these beautiful, rare, highly endangered sawfish being affected by this. And I'm just, I've got my hands held together in a silent prayer, because this is something that we don't want to see happening, and not just because of the economics, but because we want our beautiful places to be beautiful, and we want the habit, they're not our places. Right. They're our places and their places. And we're responsible for screwing it up. So we got to get together. And
with this one, there's no smoking gun. We don't know if we're responsible for screwing it up. They're not really sure yet.
Well,
it seems likely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
It's possible, but they haven't got that far yet to come up with 100%, human caused. But I think it's a fair bet.
I think it's a fair bet. And I think the one professor that, with the pea green water and all that is onto something. And that is clearly being caused by climate change, because Florida experienced record-breaking water temperatures in the ocean this summer around the Keys.
That tracks.
So it tracks. It tracks. It may not be causative, but I have a feeling it is in some way.
I think we're going to see more stories like this going forward, John, and it's going to. I couldn't find a joke in this story.
Well, I
couldn't find something
really,
funny about it. It's just too depressing.
No,
it ruined my whole day.
I'm sorry, and I've listeners, if I've ruined your day, I apologize. I'm not going to tell you to read the article if I've told you quite enough.
There's a link in the show notes, by the way, if you want to read it.
But yes, if you want to go through it a little more and study it a little more, and I know you do. I know some of you do because you're fish nerds, and I know you all got to know more, just like I do. Go ahead and give it a read, and then whatever kind of encouragement you can give in spiritual or anything else, let's do it, because this is not something we want to see.
All right, let's move on past that, John. I can't take it anymore.
Let's move on past this to something kind of fun. I couldn't come up with a real crazy knee slapper, but Clay, you remember back in the day, you had a fella on Fish Nerds 214.
Oh, good. Your memory's better than mine.
Reed Messerschmidt from the Irrationally Exuberant podcast.
Oh, we love Reed.
And you guys talked a little bit about magnet fishing, and then I come along in 261. That was in 2020 with Gerald Arsino and Scuba Sonia.
Yes.
And we did a nice long in-depth study and our story, and you jumped in on it too. And we had a whole lot of fun with those two ladies. And so those are two old episodes of Fish Nerds y'all can get into if you want to know more about magnet fishing. And we have been in on the whole magnet fishing thing. Well, one thing that magnet fishers find is weaponry and cast off. For some reason, people like to throw. Gerald and Sonia didn't find a gun the day they made their video, but Gerald had found weapons both modern, and she even found the remains of an old flintlock pistol even. And and she actually turned that over to the police. I couldn't help but give her trouble. I mean, that's a heck of a cold case, Clay.
Yeah, I mean, are there files on that? They're been looking for that weapon for 150 years.
Finally, it was solved. The girl from 1749 had been shot with a flintlock,
and now anyway, they can finally go to court because they had the murder weapon. Now they got to revive the suspect. They need their Frankenstein suspect to come back so they can deal with it.
Well, what's been going on in the Charles River in Needham, Massachusetts, is Sean Martell, who is a scuba diver, magnet fisher, just a big environmentalist and so forth, out with his pals magnet fishing, and he was doing a live cast on his YouTube channel and pulled out a mortar round.
Yes, I've seen this on the YouTube.
It freaked him out. Now, I want fish nerds that have military training and such. Is a mortar round made out of what? Iron? Is it made out of steel? I mean, I know they have like brass jackets for the powder part, but
the brass wouldn't stick to a magnet.
And so it wouldn't stick to magnets. So there's got to be a ferrous metal involved in there somewhere. And it looks like the actual part that comes down and blows up is, some sort of ferrous metal. It's either got to be iron or steel or something. But, the real question is, first of all, this is funny because Sean said, as soon as I pulled it out, I screamed, mortar round. And everybody fishing along that river just went, wow, dived into the water, or dived into the brush. But anyway, so he goes on and comes back. And the next time he came back, a couple of days later, doing a little more exploring, he found a bazooka round.
Oh, my goodness.
So, and he turned the boat. Well, actually, they called the cops and they had to go through the whole protocol. They had to isolate the area. Mm-hmm. They had to put the thing in one of those containers, and then they took it somewhere and decharged it, which means to take whatever detonator and powder was in it out. And then they came back, and this time they were a little more confident. They decharged the bazooka round, or actually knew more what to expect, I guess, and decharged the bazooka round right there on the spot. But wow, I mean, Gerald was always finding pistols and knives and such, and that might make sense because people just dump stuff in the water. It's a crying shame, but we know they do it. But this is like either military practicing over the river, dumping used ordnance in the river. They have no idea. This is going to be the next journalist that comes along that's going to have to track this stuff back to where the heck it might have come from.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see if they do a follow-up. And most of these these YouTube channels, you don't ever hear about it again. It just they do that one thing, and you wouldn't believe we found in the river.
Right.
And and almost always it's boring. But that's interesting. That's cool. And there's no way to know. And unless it's modern and brand new and just happened.
Yeah, which would be ultra scary. I handling a round that one of them, the mortar, they can't tell if it's World War I, World War II. The bazooka, of course, more modern weapon, probably World War II. But I know you and Zoe went out magna fishing a time or two, but you never came across anything this drastic.
No, the most exciting thing we got, you're not gonna believe this, John. Like, you won't believe what we found while we were magnet fishing. We found. You ready for this?
I'm not sure.
You won't even believe it. I mean, it was a really exciting day in the water, and we got a nail.
You caught a nail.
That's it. Yeah, lots of nails.
Well, you took it out of harm's way to a guy like me that was surely going to end up stepping on it.
Well, we were fishing in about 30 feet of water with magnets off the pontoon boat, just dragging it around, see if we can get anything.
All right, I would step on it while I was drowning. Okay,
there it is.
I'm trying to give you some credit here, bro.
We're heroes, John. We're total.
You are heroes. You're heroes. You're heroes to a drowning man that's going to settle on a nail just to make.
I'll tell you what. If you don't have the patience for fishing, you definitely don't have the patience for magnet fishing, because there are so many times you throw it in, you're just getting garbage. And how much garbage do you want to go through before you find that treasure?
That's true. That's true. But of course, Sean Martell knows how to keep his head in a good space about it. He goes, every pit of garbage you pull up is not in the river anymore. And that's the way to be. That is the way to be. All right. That's all I got for Fish in the News, my friend.
News, fish in the news. Everybody loves their fish in the news.
All right, cool, John. Well, let's briefly, we have to talk about Costa sunglasses. I've been partnering with them for a couple of years. They've been sending me sample glasses for a few years now, and they want me to talk about a brand new set of glasses they've got coming out, and they're going to send me a pair to try out. But they're going back to the 80s with their new glasses. And they're called the Grand Catalinas, and it's going back to the style of aviator glasses. So
I love aviator glasses.
Pretty exciting glasses to be getting. They look pretty cool too. If you go to their website, you can check it all out. Costa Sunglasses, just Google it right up.
It's worth checking out. They make some great stuff.
Yeah, and these have been you've seen the Grand Catalina on like old legends of fishing. It's a pretty common style of glasses. I'll tell you, they cost $204, John. There's a lot of money for a pair of sunglasses. But I'll tell you what I like about Costa sunglasses. First of all, they give them to me for free, which I really appreciate. But second is while I'm wearing them, first of all, they're the best polarization I've used in sunglasses. And they don't pay me. They just give me glasses, which means I can see farther in the water, see more fishes. And with the cheap, for years, I just fished with cheap $20 Walmart polarized glasses. You pick up your phone and you can't see the screen on your phone. But with the Costa glasses, I'm able to see my screen on my phone. Don't need to take the glasses off to manipulate my phone, take pictures and stuff like that. And what we'll do is when these come in, we'll review them. We'll get a fair review on them, and we'll see how they look on me.
I cannot wait because it's an aspirational thing for me, but so many people that I respect and so forth use them in the outdoors and swear by them in the outdoors. And it's if you got the jack, get some, because you only get one set of eyes and you need to take care of them. That's for sure. That's for sure. And I've got an extra pair of glasses. Not sure what style yet coming for you, John. And, really?
I've heard recently that you're getting older and need to protect your eyes more.
I am getting older and need to protect my eyes more. In fact, I'm starting to get the small initial signs of macular degeneration, and my ophthalmologist says, I don't want to hear about you being outside without your sunglasses on. So I jumped in on Amazon and got some UV 400 level sunglasses, but they're cheapies. And I got what I can afford. And this will be a great move for me because, by golly, I have 100% confidence that Costa will be the best I've had so far. And I am really into self-care and preserving what I got this shit. I'm really into self-care. And preserving what I've got left.
You got it, John. You got it. All right. So that's enough for the Costa plug there. But we need to get into talking about David Lyons.
Let's do this. Everybody, we prefaced this in the intro, or did we preface it while we were chatting?
Just
before we started?
Do it.
I don't
again.
know anymore. Anyway, David Lyons, we talked about him a couple episodes back, or an episode back. He was in Fish in the News with Tackling Minds. And Tackling Minds is a group that has succeeded in England with making fishing therapy part of the national healthcare program for people with depression issues, addiction issues, ideation issues, negative ideation issues like suicide and self-harm in other ways, and found that it is remarkably effective. I don't want to give away all the juicy bits. Sit back and listen to this fascinating fella, David Lyons, the founder of Tackling Minds. Good morning, Fish Nerd Nation. This is Crappie Hippie, your tree-hugging redneck from eastern Kansas, and I am in Glasswater studio this morning and couldn't be more excited with the guest I have for you. All the way across the pond, we have David Lyons, who is the founder of Tackling Minds, which is an organization that makes fishing a centerpiece for mental health care and mental health improvement. Good morning, David. How are you today?
I'm pretty good, John. Thank you for the invite. Thanks for having me on.
Well, I just had to have you on. We did a news story. We picked up a news story about your organization. This issue comes up with me all the time. Not only personally do I have mental health challenges, but I have so many listeners, customers, friends, people I just run into out fishing, tell me how fishing has changed their lives. And to see that someone's created an organization and run with it was just super exciting to me. So I'm going to let you talk about this, but I don't really want to do the 101, how you got started and all that stuff in that exact way. What I want to hear about is, how did you get into fishing in the first place? Let's see what y'all say. Your mom take you, your dad take you. How did David get started in fishing? And then how did we end up here?
Yeah, no worries. So how did I get into fishing? So I've got an older brother and an older cousin. And when it came to Christmases, for some reason, I always got the second best presents. And one year, my brother Andy and my cousin Dan got some fishing equipment. I must have been around 4 at the time. They're 4 or 5 years older than myself. And yeah, I just used to tag on with them like I did with most things growing up. And yeah, I was introduced to it that way, just fishing at our local pond, freshwater fishing. So it was for roach, perch, catching anything really. And, that love of fishing was stemmed from that moment, really. So I went on to carry on my fishing. My brother and my cousin hung their rods up, you could say, and it was myself that was got their tackle and carried on into my teens. But after my teens, it was a huge gap where I didn't go fishing. Yeah, that love of fishing had never left me. It's walking past a lake or a pond or whatever it may be, you're always thinking of those fish holding spots. So yeah, that bug, that love, it never left me. So yeah, there was probably a 20 odd year gap. Say life got in the way. I'd got into some personal issues with my mental health, and unfortunately with my mental health fell into alcohol addiction. So that's, I've had my ups and downs with that, and I've been through some pretty rough times with that, as well as putting my family through that as well. So again, that love of fishing had never left me, and I moved across from a pond in a place called Rochdale where I live, and I decided to get some piking gear in the middle of winter. And I was struggling. I was sober at this point, and struggling with mental health. I wasn't going out socializing like I used to in the same social circles for obvious reasons. And yeah, I decided to get out, and straight away the benefits that I was getting just through getting out on the bank. And in middle of winter, I wasn't even catching, but that love of fishing, my mind was occupied, being outside in nature, learning new rigs. Things had progressed in terms of technology with fishing, different rigs, etc., tackle, but yeah, just jumped right in the deep end. And I thought, if this is working for my mental health and my recovery, this is going to work for other people. And I thought, right, if it's taking one other person out, great. If it's a few others, then brilliant. And that's where the idea of Tackling Minds came about, to share that knowledge with other people, make fishing accessible to people who couldn't access it if it was for financial reasons, whatever that may be.
That's a great story, and thank you for it. I see that everybody's a little different, and People respond to things in a different way. David, I can see in you a guy that likes to take charge and get things done. People respond to addiction and issues and wanting to help, wanting to take action. And you're one of these people that want to take action, and this is the form the action took. Where do you think that comes from in your life? How is this strength and this gift for taking on these challenges and then helping other people out? How does David come to that conclusion?
Wow, it's a really good question, that. And I wish you'd have asked me that earlier to give myself a little bit of time. But to be honest, I have overcome quite a lot of things, especially with my mental health, which, it's a struggle from one day to the next. It's something you learn to deal with, but especially my addiction. I've been in detox facilities 5 times, and on top of that I've overcome it on my own somehow in the past as well. So, I've never been one for giving up. Where that comes from, if it's my parents, I'm not sure, and it's probably just how I'm literally wired. But, I think I've taken that into Tackling Minds on the fact that if I can overcome these obstacles, then other people can as well. And, it's having that addictive personality as well. I think that might have a little bit to do with it. And I had a huge void to fill from the alcohol and what my addiction, what that consumed. So, again, that huge void I needed to fill. And that's what I've done with creating the organization.
Well, it's an awesome thing to have done. And I can't, laud you enough for doing it. Okay, so you decide you want to start this organization, and you pick, or somehow fate makes the beginning point, February 2020. Now, there was this little thing called the global pandemic going on then, and it's amazing to me how you hit upon a solution, an outdoor solution for people that could be done during the pandemic, because of all the things you talk about, fishing benefits, one thing is you're outside, baby. There's a lot, not just shared space. We're sharing air. We got a lot of air volume. We got that fresh air. And I was just like, how ingenious, either by design or accident, for you to have got this going when people are really, really having a hard time. So fantastic.
Yeah, I'm not going to take all the credit for that. I think the timing was quite lucky. So I come out of detoxing. So I started Tackling Minds in October, November 2020, just towards the end of the pandemic. It was still going on. I'd come out of detox around July time. So it was not long after I started Tackling Minds. And the Angling Trust, who are our governing body, did a lot to campaign for fishing to be allowed during COVID. Now, golf was one of them sports, even though it's outside and you're not sort of congregating large crowds, it wasn't allowed during that time. So the Angling Trust did some brilliant work to allow fishing to get the go ahead. And on the back of that, Tackling Minds was still, it was very early stages for us. We was able to facilitate sessions with mental health organizations. So it was just really good timing. And, I think as anglers, and I'm sure you know yourself, I think it was just something that hasn't been really spoken about enough in regards to the mental health benefits we all get through getting out fishing. And, I think one thing that Tackling Minds did is opened up then conversations and made people actually realize, there's more to it than just getting out.
One thing that fascinates me is that you have the science, you have the research, you have the psychological data to back yourself up. And I am amazed at the statistics, how basically you cut the chances of people doing self-harm, suicidal ideation, running back to their addiction. You basically cut the chances in half that these things will happen. You have the proof of that your efforts are paying off, and you are getting more legit in terms of recognition every year, it looks like.
Yeah. So I was approached by Angling Direct. So they're the largest angling retailer in the UK. The CEO at the time, a gentleman called Andy Torrance, reached out to me to say, we love the work Tackling Minds are doing. Now, we've been approached by Anglia Ruskin University, a professor called Lee Smith, and he wants to conduct the first peer-reviewed scientific research to find the link between fishing and improved mental and physical health. So at this stage, it was my word of mouth, what we was doing on the bank with our service users. So to be approached and to eventually get that research and evidence, the scientific benefits of fishing was just absolutely, I was just like, is this really happening? How lucky to be involved in such groundbreaking research. So to have that evidence now, And you know what? So many different organizations have set up since Tackling Minds formed, and they're now using this evidence as well to get public funding, government funding. So they're using that as evidence to collate this funding, basically, so they can set up a similar initiative. So ultimately, thousands more people are now benefiting through fishing.
I'm thinking about other forms of outdoor recreation, and one of the astute things that was mentioned in the article is that fishing takes up the right amount of your attention span. I have a friend, what do we call our internet friends that we haven't met yet? But she has an outdoor podcast called The Outdoor Minimalist, and she covers how individual therapists and so forth recommend a lot of outdoor time in different forms. She's not a fisher. I mean, can you believe that? You know, I still love her anyway. It's okay. But she loves the hiking, and she loves the trail biking, and she points to that, and she's a big advocate of getting that into a prescriptive type arrangement. Bird watching, same story. Lots of friends in the Audubon Society here. But I think that this argument that fishing occupies the exact right amount of your attention span, and I love the thing about how you can fish with someone, chit chat, but you don't have to get into that eye contact, that intimacy. You're not forced into that right away. I mean, you eventually can turn and face each other and all that. But to start off, it's just like, I mean, how many casual conversations do you have with a fisher when you're out there? You're just like, hey, how's it going, bro? And the next thing you know, you're chatting about something. Anyway, you talk more about that, because the attention span thing really, I said, was on point.
Yeah, you know, I mean, what fishing does, it's a great tool, and you just summed it up brilliantly there. Is, you know, some people, especially mental health, they don't have that confidence to make eye contact with people and struggle with conversations and opening up. But when you take that focus away, they're concentrating on the rod, the lure, whatever it may be, they're having them conversations, people just naturally open up, and there's no pressure there. But for some reason, fishing allows people to open it up and gives people the opportunity to be able to do so. It's weird how it works, isn't it?
It is. And it's amazing. I am not going to speculate about the bird watching, the hiking, the trail riding, the canoeing, you know, the paddling. I know all these things can be very beneficial, but there's also that thing. I mean, I suppose when you finally get to see your scarlet tanager, it's a big thrill. But I know that whether it's a fish 4 inches long or one of those gigantic beach ball type 40-pound carp y'all have over there, everybody gets to stop and celebrate every now and then too. But the tension gets broken and so forth because you know, the fish has been caught, or a good cast has been made, or at least I had a bite. And if you're into fishing, it's a great mix of preoccupation, and then suddenly your attention is grabbed wholly in an atmosphere of joy.
Yeah, definitely. And we see it all the time. If it's somebody catching the first fish, it could be a tiny little fish, but just the joy on people's face, and you know, you've created a memory with somebody there that they're not ever going to forget. You know, everybody seems to remember the first catch, don't they? Just amazed. But I think, just to let you know as well, you know, before the research, Tackling Minds got fishing recognized on the National Health System, so out the NHS. So what you were saying earlier in regards to other forms of therapies, we have what's called in England, and I know it's happening over in the States and Canada with a number of organizations, it's called social prescribing. So fishing wasn't recognized under the social prescribing scheme. And as soon as I found out about this, I thought, you know, it was through my sister-in-law, I found out who worked for the NHS. I thought, I'm going to campaign for fishing to be recognized on our health system. So if you go to the doctors or your GP with suffering with mental health issues or whatever struggles you're having in life, rather than the doctor giving you medications, which they're very good at doing, what you can now be prescribed is fishing. So we get people coming fishing with us who've been prescribed from the doctors. That had never been done in the UK. So the publicity we received on the back of that was absolutely huge. And, you know, things have just sort of, the momentum's never really calmed down since then, really. You know, all the national papers, all the TVs, magazines, radios. It's crazy. It really is.
Well, it's fantastic. I love the steep ascent, and it's always nice to go viral and you know, just suddenly all of a sudden get an outpouring of attention, because it is a great cause. And I'm going to have to do more looking into what the situation is over here. In that, I will tell you a couple things anecdotally. I have a friend that his wife's actually a therapist, and he's had some issues. But one thing that she does is this, like, look, you're being tense. Why don't you call John and go do some fishing? And ever since we've buddied up, I'm like a little bit of medicine in her kit that she says, you know what, you need to get out of the house. Y'all just call John right on up and get out there and catch something or not, but get out of here and go fishing. So see it reach a higher level of legitimacy and recognition and so forth, and to actually have it formalized into a prescriptive type arrangement, it helps the spread of knowledge and helps non-fishing doctors, non-fishing therapists understand fishers are crazy. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean it in the very best way. And maybe this isn't the context to use that expression, but people wonder, what the heck are you doing? Why are you doing it? So it's great to have an organization that shows, hey, this is why I'm occupying my mind to a point where it shuts everything out. And I personally know, just so long as we're being upfront with each other, I have a lot of violence and so forth in my life growing up as a kid. So I have a lot of rage issues and a lot of problems just with depression and stuff like that. And it's fishing has always been there for me, just to put that rod over my shoulder. And even when I was 7 years old, last of the free range kids, we used to get told, get out of here. I'm cleaning the house today. You kids get on out of here. I don't want to see you back here till the porch light comes on. So we were allowed to roam and to do things and try things and work through things. And fishing's always been a big part of that for me. I want to know if you're aware of any organizations over here that are making the same kind of push you are to get the same sort of recognition you have.
So when I started tackling mines, I did do my research, and I know there was a number of a fly fishing organization, and I'm pretty sure they did some work with veterans.
Yes.
Wouldn't be hard to find through a quick Google search, but since over the last year or two, tackling mines has obviously reached across the pond, and people are starting to hear about what we're doing. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's anybody setting up some similar organizations to that. So we've had organizations in the States and across Europe wanting to adopt our model as well. We're not in that stage to be able to do that ourselves at this moment in time, just because we're trying to set it up in the UK. But the demand on the potential it's got to roll tackling mines out is amazing. But I'd be really interested to know if there are other organizations. Hopefully there are.
Well, I hope so too. And perhaps when I figure this out a little further and do some asking around, I will be glad to get back to you. They're going to be a little bit different maybe, but yes, you're absolutely right. One thing that jumps to mind is that my co-host, Todd Correa, the Fish Wrap writer. Fish Wrap, he done a lot of wounded warriors and veterans type groups, take them surf fishing, take them out on the inshore. He's a saltwater guy, by and large. We have groups that are reaching out. It's a natural. Veterans take them fishing. A lot of veterans already fish. The idea there is kind of a logical one, but we know that there is, and your organization has proved it, because you work with a ton of people that never fished in their lives, and people don't churn out of it real easily. Your churn rate is fantastic. You get so many people that retain the desire to fish. It's natural for you to have a desire to fish. You started when you were 4. I started when I was 3. The younger you start a person fishing, the more likely they are to hang on to it and have it be a lifetime thing, even if you take a break. It's amazing that you're able to draw these people in. Do you have any advice for people? My cousin, my husband, my friend is in need, and they've said something maybe a little bit about fishing, or maybe they haven't, but I think this would be good for them. How should they approach that?
Yeah, first and foremost, it's that social connection you get with fishing. What more can you get through getting out fishing with a friend, be it a close friend, family member? Add fishing into the equation. It's learning a new skill, a new hobby, something to keep your mind focused, something very positive. The list is endless, but even take away the fishing, what is better than being outside in nature, surrounded by water, wildlife, the natural environment, fishing's just an added bonus to that as well. So, the list is endless.
We talk about, even though we understand that youth anglers, stick with it and are the more typical model, but it's just when older anglers get bit by the bug, they get bit by it hard sometimes, and it's great to see. And not just fishing, but the hiking, the mountaineering, all of it. We're beginning to understand how essential a connection with nature is to the soul of a human being. We're animals. We need to socialize. We need to get in touch with the mother. I have urban friends that they don't know fishing from nothing, that they love to get out. One thing they love, it's hard when you live in a really urban environment. For example, New York City, you can drive and drive and drive. I mean, you can drive a long ways where you just go through neighborhood after neighborhood after neighborhood after neighborhood before you finally break out and get out in the blue sky and you're out in the wild. So healing. I'm going to do one more directed question, then I'm going to hand it over to you because it just occurred to me. If someone wants to pick up the reins, if they want to pick it up over here, some tips, recommendations, ideas. Let's just say we've got a therapist that's really into fishing and she has a ton of friends and she wants to start being an advocate for this sort of therapy. Yeah. Can you suggest maybe a few pointers of what direction, what yardsticks or landmarks she should shoot for as she goes to get this together?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, especially in this day and age, is how powerful social media can play in something like this. Social media does get a lot of negative flack, and rightly so. But with positive things, when it comes to things like Tackling Minds and whatever organization somebody may be setting up, is utilizing Facebook, Instagram, whatever it may be, to get that message out there, be consistent with that, posting every day, showing how passionate you are about supporting other people, the benefits of fishing, getting people into a sport, sport that's got to stick with, like you said, for the rest of your life. Is get out there, speak to organizations, be it veteran organizations, mental health organizations, your health service, just be relentless in your approach. If you're that passionate about it, and I think that's what sort of shone through with myself, is that there was no giving up. It was just, I will get this message out no matter what. I was that passionate because I'd struggled myself. So if someone's got that about them and that drive, people will listen. People will.
Well, I see that you cultivated some allies right off, Angling Direct, the university, and so forth. So yeah, I hear what you're saying. Get in front of people, raise the visibility of the issue, start networking with people who are like-minded, and then, you can go from there. And let me tell you one thing. You can always reach out to old farts like myself who know a lot about fishing. I may not know squat about therapy, except that I do it, but I can help you out with where you ought to take these folks, what you ought to fish for and with, and so forth like that.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a great point. So you'll find with our volunteers, none of them are therapists or trained medical health professionals. There's people like yourself who just want to give back, introduce people to the sport. Again, it's just utilizing people's kind hearts to, who want to give up their time to helping others, get them on board. If it's introducing people to fishing, learning the basic fundamentals, introducing to different waters, venues, clubs, whatever it may be. It's there's what I found with Tackling Minds, and I've met some of the best people I've ever met in my life through setting this up. The most supportive, kind-hearted people I've ever met.
Well, I am not surprised one bit. Okay, now I'm going to give you the rest of the time, whatever amount of time you want to talk about whatever you want. I will say, listeners, we are going to have Tackling Minds website in the show notes. We're going to have all their social media contacts in the show notes. They've got Facebook, they've got Instagram. David, talk to me about whatever's on your mind right here, right now, this minute.
Do you know what? Apart from my life is consumed, apart from my daughter and my partner, we've just been for our baby scan today to find out my partner's pregnant for the second time as well. Found that out half an hour ago. So
congratulations, man. You devil.
Great news. So other than that, my life is consumed with Tackling Minds, sometimes not always for the good. I have to drag myself away from time to time. So whatever I talk about is probably with yourself is always going to relate back to fishing and tackling mines. But I'm interested to know a little bit about yourself regards to the type of fishing you do. I'm sure your listeners already know, but I'm really interested in that. Can we turn the interview around?
That's fine with me because crazy enough, I love to talk fishing. I get consumed with it too, but I actually live out in a rural area. We have a pond and that we share with a neighbor, and I just call it a test pond because I test a lot of my lure designs there. I am a fishing lure designer, fishing tackle designer, became so out of this urge to do something to help further the lead-free fishing movement. I design lead-free fishing tackle for Glasswater Angling Lead-Free Fishing, LLC, which is my own company, and we are out to provide lead-free solutions for anglers seeking to leave a smaller environmental footprint. Not only does it make sense in terms of fishing ethics and sporting fishing, but it's also the law in 6 states that you can't use lead tackle under a certain size in freshwater environments. And this is your split shots, your small lead weights, small jigs, panfish jigs, and so forth that have lead heads. These get ingested and the birds get lead poisoning, and loons and swans and bald eagles are lost to the tune of about 20 million birds. And also there is secondary poisoning of mammal scavengers and bird scavengers as well. And this all came about when I basically just said to myself, hey, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? I got this. I want to fight at least one more battle. Got to fight one more battle. But anyway, getting back to different fish species I like to fish for. I'll fish for just about anything, but there is one fish that will always hold a special place in my heart. In the United States, largemouth black bass is the king. So I naturally fish for that. But when I was 3 years old, first fish I ever caught was a big old slab crappie, and I can still remember it. And I still love to catch what we call panfish, like crappie, and then the sunfish family. I had a nice lady from Ireland ask me once, she goes, well, why are they called panfish? And I said, well, crazy thing is they're from 10 to 12 inches long usually, which is just about the same size as a lot of pans. And so they fit right in there. So I fish for panfish a lot. I love ultralight fishing, but I'm what's known as a best method fisher. I love to use a fly rod. I mainly spin fish, but I got power tackle. I've got casting rods all the way from a little bass rod all the way up to heavy catfish outfits. So we do some cat fishing. We got fish walleye. And then, of course, one that you may not have heard of, but white bass. It's a potomodermous fish, which means it lives in big lakes, but it'll migrate up the rivers that feed those lakes. And in the spring, you can get into some crazy, just like a salmon run or something, or a shad run or something like that. You can get into some crazy fun chasing those. So that's mainly what I do, although I'm game for anything. And I really love it when my daughter I live in Kansas, my daughter lives in Massachusetts. And when I visit her, I'm always trying to scam a trout trip or a trip to get to the inshore. Last time I came up, we had my friends from Maine Audubon Society. Friend Laura Williams invited me to go up into Maine and try some fishing up there on a lake she lives on in Maine. And that was outstanding. Caught a bunch of pickerel and all that, some yellow perch, some stuff I'm not used to. Yeah, that's my kind of my fishing world. Just
yeah. So when you say you've got your own pond, your own lake, who stocks that for you then, or is it a natural?
It's pretty natural. I mean, it's an old pond. It was built in like 1971, so it's been around a long time. And I imagine the people back when it was built went ahead and contacted the Kansas Parks and Wildlife Department, because back in those days, the Kansas Parks and Wildlife Department would stock your pond for free. But we've gotten up to about 300,000 ponds in Kansas now, so those days are over. Like I say, it's a shared pond, so people have gone down. There's a reservoir near me called Hillsdale. Oh, they'll bring back some catfish from Hillsdale. That's how the crappie got in there. They brought back a cooler full of crappie and dumped them in there. Yeah, the way the creek, we have a creek that's further down on some property next to me. And before they did all this flood control stuff, it used to flood a lot. And so we actually had a lot of variety in the sunfish family, because it would flood and then they would actually swim upstream and end up in the pond. So we don't have that so much anymore, but yeah. So yeah, it was stocked. We have stocking program in Kansas. If you let people fish your pond, make it into a public pond, then they'll stock and maintain your pond for free. Most people want to keep it private, so there's people you can pay. But our show is a big geek out. I have a friend, her name is her brand is the Oklahoma Pond Lady. Her name is Amy Robertson, and she is a pond management expert, a freshwater ecologist by degree, and she helps me out a lot. And so I fiddle with putting in supplemental minerals from time to time. I like to put in the brush and the cover. I'm learning all the time. So I'm the one that actually manages it because I am a complete fish nerd and I love the idea of having my own little ecosystem to play with.
Yeah. So where do all these nicknames come from? Who creates these nicknames?
You know, I don't really know, but it's mainly an outgrowth of people developing social media handles, their names on social media. Crappie hippie is just something I came up with. When I started on social media, I wanted a name that kind of talked about myself kind of in a funny way because I'm what you call a tree-hugging redneck. I live out in a rural area and I like redneck stuff, but I'm also pretty liberal in my politics. I'm also very much an environmentalist and a believer in the sanctity of the earth and preserving the earth and so forth. So crappie kind of just represents my good old boy side, my country boy side, and hippie is kind of my attitude about things, attitude about life, attitude about the world and where I fit into it. But also, if you're going to try to have a YouTube channel or, we're a podcast, as our main freshwater ecologist, her name is Doc Martin. We could call her Professor Erica Martin if we wanted to, because she is a college professor, but, it's just more fun, I guess. And then, Clay's the chief executive, and then the guy I fish with a lot is Jeff, and that's what I call him. But when he publishes on YouTube, it's the Flatland Fly Fisher, and it's just stuff like that. Crazy.
I like it.
Crazy stuff. Well, thank you. People are like crappie hippie. I don't know about that one so much. I'm like, look, if a guy can make it in rap, starting out with the name Snoop Doggy Dog, I don't think you can get a name that's too ridiculous that the public won't just eat it up if you go about it in the right way. So it's just kind of a thing. I'm 62, about 62 years old. My birthday's coming up here really fast. I like to do what the kids do though, because it's a lot of fun. And and it gives me a little bit of space between my private life and a public life.
Yeah, definitely. I don't practice what I preach enough these days. I need to get out myself a little bit more often. My days are spent in the office, home office, building the organization, a lot of more admin side of things. I love every aspect of what I do. But we've got a session on, we had one yesterday, we've got one on tomorrow morning, and unfortunately I won't be going to them because I've got other things going on, but it's all positive, taking the organization in the right direction anyway.
Well,
is Shimano another one? Sorry to jump question there.
Oh,
is Shimano a big fishing brand over in the States?
It's a huge fishing brand over in the States, and in fact, Fish Wrap is Todd Correa, the Fish Wrap writer. He does a lot of reviews with Shimano. Oh yeah, they're huge over here. They're huge.
So Shimano UK fishing, that is huge supporter of the work we do. You believe it or not, they've got an office of about 5 people. As big as a brand as Shimano are, they're not huge. We have our board meetings down there when we catch up. So last week we was at an exhibition called the Big One Show in very down south in the country, a place called Farnborough. Whenever we attend these huge fishing exhibitions, Shimano allow us to use their stands as well. They were one of the first organizations to reach out to us, and we've now got 2 of their anglers, 2 of their own ambassadors who are now coming on board to be Tackling Minds ambassadors as well. So no, I was just more interested, really. As I say, the huge brand out there. I'm just wondering if they are with the fishing out there. So it seems like they are.
Oh, they are. They are very much a part of the USA fishing scene. All right, I'm looking at that old clock on the wall. We got about 1:45 here. David, where is your favorite place to go fishing? Because people ask me, well, where do those English people fish? I mean, I've heard about all the chalk streams and this, and I know Marina Gibson is a big follower and fan of yours, and I also follow Fishing with Carl, so I'm not completely unfamiliar with some of the ponds, the streams, and so forth. I know there's pay ponds, I know there's canals, I know there's these streams. when you get to go out, and yes, you've ruined your life by getting in the fishing business, just like I have. So, because I'm going to sneak away and go fishing this morning, even though I shouldn't, which will mean I have to work a little more later, but I know where it's about. Okay, 1 minute. Where's your favorite place to go fishing? And no spot burning. You don't have to spot burn, my brother. Just tell me in general, okay?
Yeah. So, there's a spot, and it's not too far from myself, and it's one of the locations that I was first introduced to fishing, a place called Roman Lakes. It's stocked with carp, roach, perch, you name it. It's got a multitude of different species in there, but it's one place that, for some reason, that it's where my love of fishing stemmed from, as I said, but it just never leaves me. So that excitement to be able to go down there brings it back a lot of memories, and it's a beautiful place, scenic.
Well, listen, David, it's been great to talk to you, and I don't want you to get cut off. Hats off to you, my friend. Bless you for meeting up with me this morning. I sure appreciate it. You have a great day today and for all the rest of your tomorrows.
Yeah, you too. Thank you so much for the invite. It's been lovely to meet you. Take care.
All right, that was pretty cool. You know what I found to be pretty incredible?
What's that, John?
I can understand British, like just like a pro. It's like Australian. I talk to Luke.
Mm-hmm.
I know exactly what he's saying. I mean, what does that mean, man?
It means you're fluent in 3 languages.
It's crazy stuff, isn't it?
I know. It's almost like you got a babble fish in your ear.
I guess, and it seems like he could understand me too. I mean.
That's crazy. It's amazing to me that someone that far away can understand you.
Well, I hope you noticed there at the end, he turned the tables on me and asked if he could interview me a little bit. I got a kick out of that. I thought about cutting it, but by golly, I'm such an egomaniac that I went ahead and left it in because he was really tickled with the kind of the getting a line on USA stuff. And
well, what I find about fishing, and the reason we do this podcast, a lot of it is it's an equalizer. It gives us that common thing that we can talk about with anyone who fishes, no matter culture. Even if they have a crazy language like English, we can still talk to them. It brings us all together.
It does bring us all together. But really, what fascinated him most is how everybody over here has a nickname or a brand or kind of not everybody, but a lot of people because of social media. And so he goes, where did Crappie Hippie come from? And Fish Wrap Writer and of course Blue Jay. We know certain people, cute young ladies do it too. And you're the chief. And yeah, it's just kind of a fun thing we do hereabouts lately here. But anyway, I think these folks have listened to us carry on about fishing when they should have been out fishing themselves.
Right. We appreciate them listening, by the way. Big fat thank you to Wally Pleasant for our theme song, Diana's Bath Salts for the Fish in the News theme, Tim at Tacklebox Beat, David Lyons, and of course, mostly, like we said at the end, the listeners. You guys, we'd make this for you. This is your podcast.
It is. It absolutely is.
All right, John.
Until next time, follow the code of the fish nerds. Spawn early and often.
Never trust a free lunch with strings attached.
And swim against the current every chance you get.
We did it, John. Made a podcast flawlessly.
Flawless as a diamond in the sun.
Whether you're fly fishing in a stream, getting those ankles wet, or deep in the ocean casting nets, fish nerds. Fish nerds. Fish nerds. It's a podcast.
Just for the halibut.
Fried in a basket or broiled in a pan. Eat it raw like you're in Siam. Fish nerds. Fish nerds. Fish nerds. It's a podcast.